Even the simple matter of how a city is charted is important, profoundly informing our image of the city. Irrespective of whether an existing urban fabric is translated into a two-dimensional representation or an imaginary city is giving definite shape on a piece of paper or a computer screen. Any form of representation is a translation of what rises before our eyes, or before the mind's eye, into a different medium, one that alters the object being represented. With regard to the map, that means first and foremost that a three-dimensional structure is reduced to flatness and that abstract signs embody architecture and green spaces, streets and squares. The city map emphasizes the ideas the planners had in mind, and it shows where these ideas were foiled, be it as in older cities by their history, be it by unplanned wild growth. Still, the city map translates even such growth into an order that neatly presents itself to the eye. In the mid-20th century, a group of people, including artists, its most vocal representative was Guy Debord, rebelled against predefined orders of the city and the functions associated with such orders. Against the primacy of function in all its forms, they insisted on the city as a living environment. They drifted through the urban fabric, guided solely by their needs and intuitions. The insights gained in such roaming were recorded in maps based on the Paris city map. The latter was cut into pieces and the islands reassembled, depending on the direction of movement and the density of experience. This form of psychogeography redistributed the relative weights within the city. It was precisely not the major axes and junctions that held out high intensities of experience. The islands are interconnected by hubs, plaques tournantes or turntables, here indicated by arrows which are meant to suggest the dynamism of a space of experience and the impossibility of pinning it down. Yet even such imaginations of the city require visualization to become intuitively accessible. And so the psychogeographic mapping generates new ideas and new patterns that may become part of the plans for new cities, as these alternative master plans for Indian cities illustrate. The Situationists were neither the first nor the last to explore alternative forms of urban perception. They spoke of the psychological dimension, the intensity of inner experience which endows the urban space with different cathexis. In the early 20th century, many artists sought to render in words and pictures the effects that acceleration and growth have on their perception of the urban space. As distortion, as disturbance, as an apocalyptic landscape, or as an intoxicating rhythmic dynamism. Besides Marinetti's programmatic futurist manifesto, his poems are the most striking examples of the verbal rendition of complex perceptions of the city. You can hear them in different recordings online. In the 1980s, the German artist Martin Kippenberger brought out an artist's book. Containing no text at all, it simply combines pictures of pieces of architecture, public sculptures and works of installation art by the artist himself and others, to create very distinctive perceptions of urbanity. In her action titled Körperkonfigurationen or Body Configurations, Vali Export explored urban space in a very physical fashion. By occupying architecture, wrapping her body around it or fitting herself into it, she raised questions concerning how well buildings are adapted for the measure of the human, or more precisely, the female body. Since classical antiquity, architecture theory has referred to the human body as the yardstick to whose needs houses and cities should be tailored. Conversely, good architecture is supposed to have positive effects on the virtues and morals of a city's resident. Vali Export took these claims literally and tested whether they are true in general and whether they also apply to the female users of a city. The human measure, after all, was and still largely is coded as male.